Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Eric Velasquez. I am interviewing all the candidates that I can for the city of San Antonio, the upcoming elections that are coming up in May. So we have our next guest here, and I'll go ahead and just bring him in. Hey, what's going on, Alex? How are you?
How are you?
If you can go to Instagram, you should see me live on there.
Yeah, so like I'm there, but
So
like I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be seeing.
yeah, go to my page,
Right, I'm there.
and then refresh it real quick, and then you should
Oh, okay. Yeah,
see.
now it's popped up. Okay, yeah, I see you.
And
Okay,
then
so
I'll send you a invite once you jump in. Cool.
okay.
Go. All right. And then we'll just jump in. Do you have any headphones for your computer?
For the phone?
No, for your computer.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah. If you could just plug those in and then turn your phone all the way down. What's going on? All right. All right. Hello. Oh.
Okay, how about now? Oh, wait, yeah, there we go. Now I'm getting feedback from my computer.
Okay. I can hear
Okay.
you. Okay. Your phone. I don't know what happened to your phone. Is it up at the
What
ceiling?
is something going on? Okay.
Okay. There we go.
Am I supposed to be pointing this at myself too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is really weird.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just put it like over here because I don't have a lot of space on my desk.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
What's going on, everybody?
Well, I guess that's kind of like,
There we go.
oh my God. All right.
All right. Everybody on Instagram and Facebook, I just want to make sure we don't have any feedback. Can you give me a thumbs up if everything sounds okay? What's up, JP? What's going on? All right. So go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody. Start there.
Yeah, so my name is Alex Svehla. I've lived in San Antonio basically my whole life. I graduated from Churchill High School here locally. I went to UTSA and I got my bachelor's there in political science in 2011. From there, I actually just recently graduated over the summer with my master's degree in public administration from American. And so the past several years, I've been working in education and social work. At first, I was a teacher for a couple of years at a charter school on the south side, Jubilee Academy. And then from there, I moved into my social work, where I worked at Roy Moss Youth Alternatives, which primarily is a children's shelter. And now just this year, I've returned to teaching. Primarily COVID was a major factor in that. And so that's where I find myself now.
So how did you get into politics? It wasn't poli sci because we all know that poli sci has nothing to do with politics for some reason. But what made you want to do that jump? Like, what was that step like for you that you were like, you know what, I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna commit on it.
For me, I'm really just passionate about public service and working with the community, helping the community. Actually, right after, I didn't even mention it, but right after I got my poli-sci degree, I went out and worked on Claire McCaskill's campaign in 2012. And that I learned pretty much everything I know about campaigning, I learned on that campaign. But the one thing that I realized is that, going out to, Missouri wasn't really, my heart wasn't 100% in it because I wasn't in Texas. I wasn't in San Antonio. And from there on, I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to stay home. I'm going to do grassroots here because, I want my heart to be in it. I know San Antonio. I know Texas. I know what the history is. I know what the community's like, because like when I was up in Missouri and St. Louis, you know, when they mention areas or, you know, what the local politics is like, I'm like having to research a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I don't really know the history.
Yeah.
So, you know, even though I know that race was really important, and you know it was, I still prefer working in the community that I love, and so that's where, from that point on, I was more interested in working grassroots. So from then on, I was just volunteer grassroots campaigning here in town.
And what is it like for you to be, um, you know, yeah, I mean, you're basically going to be competing against, obviously Councilman Perry and some other that are maybe a little bit, you know, kind of well funded candidates. So what do you see going into it? Like, what's your game plan to see maybe like to do things differently that maybe they can't?
Yeah, so obviously I am going against at least a couple of people that have a lot more money than I could probably ever imagine being a working class person. Um, and I can, you know, you can see that just based off of, you know, the amount of signs they have, you know, the amount of media coverage they get, the people that they know, is especially telling, I think. And so, but that's what, you know, made me want to run, is because, you know, I always thought that, okay, you know, you have to know someone, you have to be someone that is important, that knows people, that has all these connections to people that, you know, have these big administrative titles, and things like that. But I, you know, is that really representative of our community, of our people? You know, I don't know if that's what people really want in our representatives, and that's why I decided to run.
Definitely. And with that, I'm bringing a question to you. Would you be for campaign contribution limits? And I mean as a cap for your total campaign, just to kind of help situations like this to where everybody kind of gets more of a fair shot. Obviously, it's different because people know each other, but for a campaign contribution, so we're not wasting so much money on signage, on media, on all these things. It'll be a little bit more fair. Would you be open to campaign contribution limits?
Yeah, definitely. Also, I'm getting a lot of feedback, and I don't know if it's because I didn't actually turn down my
Oh,
phone here. No, I mean, my phone says it's down all the way, but I feel like I'm getting feedback from the phone, so I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, I don't know. But are you getting the feedback? Because like I am. Okay.
no.
I don't know why.
On Instagram? Is everybody okay over there? I got thumbs up, but
Okay.
I want to make sure that we're not.
Okay. It could be these headphones for some reason, so I'm not sure
Okay.
why that is. But
Um,
yeah, I'm definitely in favor of campaign limits or contribution limits. Um, you know, I at first I admit that I was taking contributions and I was open to taking it. And then when I kind of reached a point where I was like, you know what, like I've spent the money that I've needed.
yeah.
Like I have the signs that I want, I have the flyers that I want, and I've spent the, you know, the fees that have been needed to be spent. So what's the point of more money?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I could put up some more signs, but
But
what's the point? You know,
exactly.
there's not a lot, you know, there's not a whole lot of evidence that says, oh, you know, more signs is just, you know, it's going to make or break the campaign.
Yeah.
So I decided to stop taking contributions, and I returned the, you know, handful of contributions that I got, because I was like, you know what, I had the money saved up for this campaign. I don't have the exact total of the amount that I spent, but it's under $3,000, and because of that, it's like, you know, I've shown that you can run a solid, decent campaign. I have about 25 signs out there that I strategically placed, and flyers are pretty cheap to
Yeah.
print if you find the right place.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
so like I'm like, you know, I'm not sure why there's some candidates out there that want to continue receiving contributions when they already have a sign like on every corner of every street.
Yeah.
Um,
I totally agree with you. That's how I ran my campaign. I was like, I don't need any more money. Like there's just
Yeah.
no point. Anything I did receive was I just gave it to some nonprofits that needed some mutual aids or whatever it was, and yeah, I mean, there isn't a need for all that, and that's why I'm doing this show specifically because everybody deserves a platform regardless of money or whatever. And I noticed that with some of the radio stations, they required you to have a campaign headquarters. They required you to have staff. Like it's those were requirements in order for them to interview you, and it's sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so, what would be your first item of business if you were to win your spot in D10?
Well, I mean, I think everyone's just talking about, COVID relief and, for me, like my whole campaign, slogan, the thing that I'm fighting for is protecting the working class people because my wife and I have been working class people our whole lives. My wife is a dog groomer. She hasn't had a single day of college education. Um, and, me being a teacher and a social worker, I mean, that's working class. I haven't made over like $53,000 in a single year in my life. So, we know what it's like to struggle, to have to, live paycheck to paycheck, and those kind of struggles like the economy affecting you and things like that, that working class people face every day. And, that doesn't even consider the fact that you have so many workers out there now that, um, have been greatly affected by COVID, whether it's their businesses, closing for long periods of time or outright shutting down. And so we have to protect these people.
Yeah, definitely, and it brings a form of um, you relate to a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people want to see them relate to a politician to where they're not too outside of the box since what I mean,
Yeah.
like you don't know what I'm going through because you're living in a mansion or whatever it
Yeah.
is. um so what are some of the issues that you feel that have not been addressed in District 10? Just name a few.
Oh, that's perfect that you asked that because no one in our no one in the that is running for District 10 has been advocating for education. And obviously, as an educator, that's something that I'm going to be looking out for 100%. And it really worries me because I feel like education is always like, the third or fourth or fifth policy option or worry of people, of politicians. And so, I think it really needs to be made a priority because, I've seen firsthand, whether I was the social worker because I was working with children as the um, pandemic hit, or even now as a teacher, I've seen, like, for instance, one of the things that I really want is an increase in available technology at our schools. Is that was a huge issue, was the lack
Right.
of technology at our schools, and that we couldn't prepare properly for COVID hitting. We had some that we could provide, our lower socioeconomic families, but it was just not enough. And we're moving toward an age. I mean, we're technically already there, where careers and jobs require technology. You're gonna have to know how to use it at some level, and like we need to move our students to be able to use it all the
And not just
time.
play games on it.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
just- yeah, and I think education is a root cause of a lot of our issues, from homelessness to to crime, to a lot of these things. We're not giving the education for these children, not getting them off to the great start. So yeah, definitely. Um, indeed, Marsupio says, "Who do you support for mayor? Who would you want to work with?"
Well, I definitely support Ron Nierberg's reelection. I think he's done as good of a job. as anyone during this difficult time. Honestly, I haven't really researched the other candidates yet as far as like who's challenging. Besides, I know
There's
Brockhouse,
14. There's
obviously. Yeah,
14 of them.
there's
Yeah.
always a lot.
Yeah.
There's always a lot, but obviously, I know Brockhouse, and I'm definitely not a fan of him, especially after the whole debacle with the fire union and all that. So. But right now I support him. I know there was a debate the other night. I saw a few of the things that were said, like Brockhouse wants a new airport and things like that. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, that's who I support.
Gotcha. Okay. And who would you want to work with? As I guess maybe do you mean like maybe in city council, or I don't know what that other question was, but I mean I would assume you would want to work with anybody. You know, I mean that would be
Yeah,
the
I mean, I think a lot of the current city council members align with a lot of my views. So I think we'll be very amicable to, um, creating the policy that I'm hoping that would move San Antonio forward.
okay. Um, what do you think you could do to improve on from the current elected officials? So, not to say anything bad, but just what would you like to improve on? Maybe that's been initiated already.
Well, since I've already talked about education, because he voted against pre-K for SA, um, I'll talk about the environment, which is another big policy for me that I feel like is not being addressed enough or talked about among the candidates. Because I feel like, obviously everyone's talking about COVID relief and small businesses and protecting them. Like, I feel like that is, I hate to call it obvious, but, we need to do it. So I feel like we need to talk about other issues that us as candidates want to address. And for me, that is definitely the environment. Um, Recently, in the past several years, San Antonio has actually increased in its waste and decreased in its recycling. And so I think we need to make bigger efforts in recycling efforts and decreasing our waste and protecting the environment. So I think one thing we can do is consider banning single-use plastic or single-use. Um, what am I saying?
Like bags.
Single-use. Well, not bags. Yeah, I am saying single-use plastics. I think I got mixed up in my own words
No
there.
worries.
But but I'm thinking like the straws and the plastic forks and things like that, they can be easily replaced. Like if you go to like IKEA, everything there is recyclable. It's not made of plastic. It's made of biodegradable materials, which I think that is the future for us.
As long as they
I
don't put them in plastic wrap, that would
Yeah,
defeat
yeah.
the purpose.
Now, I do want to say I am aware that one city in it was along the Rio Grande somewhere. I can't remember the city because this was a while ago. I know they tried a plastic bag, and it was shut down by the Texas Supreme Court. So, I am aware that probably would be a challenge, whether that is the same or relatable to plastic bags. But I think it is worth pushing the agenda either way, because that's a huge issue. Is those single-use plastics are, very could be easily replaced, like I said.
Gotcha. And anybody that's watching on Instagram, if you want to ask a question, please do so. On Facebook, if you want to come in and actually ask a question, you can do that as well. I'll go ahead and copy the link in the comment section on Facebook and YouTube. And so if you want to come in and ask, you can come in and ask directly to the candidate. Um, Ty has a question here. What can you do differently from District 10 than what Clayton Perry has done?
Well, I feel like that's what we are just talking about. But yeah, for me, the education, the environment. When I see um, Mr. Perry's website and what he feels like he's accomplished. It's all, improving roads, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't really talk about anything else. And so it worries me that that's his only priority, because he just this past city election, general election, he voted against pre-K for SA. He voted against the VIA proposal. He voted against the workers program. So to me, these are all policies that are greatly supported by San Antonio residents and would benefit District 10. I think that especially during COVID, the workers program is something that's going to be beneficial for a lot of people. And so, I don't really think Mr. Perry is really representing District 10 to what they actually are needing and wanting.
Now, and I'm gonna be frank with you because I actually do live in District 10. From my experience in District 10, because I run the social media page for our neighborhood association, and what I tend to see is a lot of older folks on there voicing their concerns, right? And I think there could be a reason why he's doing that, because the people that are speaking up in this district are the older generation that really only care about, and not to say only, but really care about like the streets and things like that. Because I know our neighborhood association calls him for like every single thing, from like moving a mobile trailer to just simple stuff. I'm like, you guys are worried about this, and we're not worried about food insecurities or whatever. But this district is a little bit different. You know what I mean? So, do you think that could be a reason why he's voting that way? Because maybe those are the people that are vocalizing their opinions to him like strongly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so it's no secret that, local elections don't get a lot of voter turnout. And I think District 10 it was between 10 to 15% voter turnout in 2019. And so, you could just imagine raising those numbers and, what would the outcome be? And of course, a lot of those voters are going to be older voters who are more aware of politics and their situation. But when you look at the 2020 election general results, this area voted for Joe Biden. And so I feel like Clayton Perry and Joe Biden, they don't really, their ideals do not mix very well. And so I think a lot of people just aren't aware of who their city representative is,
Well, yeah.
or, what's going on in city politics, or maybe they just pay attention to the mayor really. And so that's, that's what really needs to be brought forward is, hey, these people also affect what's going on. These people affect your, what's going on locally, and it's also important. It's just as important as, your general elections.
Right. Right. And that's why I'm doing these, because I really want people to just bring that energy that you had in the presidential election and bring it in here for the city election, because this is important. These are the people who make the daily decisions. Um, for the most part, it's a lot about infrastructure. So there are a lot of people who will ask the candidates like, do you support, pro-life, or, and that's not your
Yeah.
that's not your position in this. So
Wheelhouse. Yeah.
right, maybe they're just trying to find out who you are, but I don't know. We really need to stick to the facts of what the city does. Ty says your city district has some of the best schools. What do you mean when you say education?
I'm sorry, he probably missed when I was talking earlier about wanting the difficulties schools faced during when the pandemic hit, and even after the summer went over and we transitioned into the school year, lacking the technology to help lower socioeconomic families, and also prepping our kids for the future for when they get jobs, because schools are jobs are now so heavily reliant on technology that we need to now prepare kids for heavy technology use.
Gotcha. Ty also has if you could implement an action plan to get more voters out, how would you go about it? Good question. That was one of my questions.
Is, and I mean, is this as a candidate or as a councilman?
Mm, let's say as a councilman. Let's say as a councilman.
Okay. I mean, I think we could, you know, create kind of informational, educational type of materials. Um, there's been, oh, he says as a citizen.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Well, I think I think that's what I was doing as when I was working my grassroots campaigning. Because for me, I was just a citizen. I wasn't affiliated with any type of campaigning. I was just going door to door for in a group of friends that I had, and there would be one speaker this week and then another speaker this week, and then we go walk for that person.
Mhm.
And so what you're doing is you're just going out, knocking on doors, be like, hey, there's this person, he or she wants to do such and such, and you're bringing awareness to that candidate. The problem is not everyone cares.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially because there's so many people that I really relate as a working class person, because especially like if they're knocking on your door at 5 or 6 o'clock after you get home, you're tired.
Yeah.
And you don't always have the energy to hear it. A lot of people just want to maybe do like one day's worth of their research, be like, oh, there's that guy. They hear it from the news.
Right.
And then they made their decision whether or not they're going to vote for that person or just not vote at all. And so that's the hurdle that has to be leaped over.
Gotcha. So I mean, so what would you like? I mean, so you're basically saying that you would just try to go, just basically just door to door. I mean, is
Well,
it
that's as a citizen, that's what I do, and that's as a candidate, that's what I'm doing.
Hmm.
But I think as a councilman, you have to approach it differently. I think uh, I think there's been like get out the votes type of campaigns and things like that in the past. Usually that's only done during like general elections.
Yeah.
So the question is then, is it worth it from a financial point of view or whatever it is to do it for a local election? I'm not sure why I've never seen it for a local election.
Hmm.
Because generally as I was saying, for general elections, you see a lot of, oh, register to vote, and everyone is like very on top of like, hey, go register, this is the deadline, this is the day for voting. You never see that for local elections.
And I think that's probably because there is such a lack of interest in politics in general. It's like for the big one, let's
Yeah.
rally everybody up, but it's still we still have to pay attention. So with that, would you be willing to look into ranked choice voting? I know you wouldn't be able to implement it yourself, but I'm just saying, start start having that conversation with our local elections to stay maybe look at ranked choice voting. And some of the benefits for people who are watching is it would it would eliminate the need for a runoff election, which costs the city $8 to $10 million, maybe more, um, every time, and it would cause the candidates to not fight with each other as much. You wouldn't see a lot of mudslinging, because that second place candidate, maybe that's second favorable, might want to get that somebody else's uh, candidate base, voter base, to vote for them as a second, third, or fourth choice. So is this something you would look at in the future, or have you looked at it at all?
Yeah, I've definitely looked at it. I think there is a lot of I think there's a renewed debate about the electoral college this last general election, and so I definitely looked at a lot of people's different suggestions, and of course, ranked choice voting was definitely a prominent one.
Yeah.
And I be wrong? I think there's one state or one city that's now implemented it. Was it New
There's a
York?
there's a few states that have started. Yeah, New York is one of them. They just started it last year, so it was the first time they actually did. And the thing that the media doesn't know how to handle it because they're like they don't know how to report it because it's new. So
Yeah,
I mean, but I know I think North Dakota is doing approval voting, so where it's just you could pick as many candidates as you want. There's no rank to them. You just pick all of them or none or three or whatever it is. So
yeah,
yeah, it's definitely something new, but I think we should start going in that direction because then that would separate this bipartisan, left and right fueling and especially with people, it would bring people a little bit more together because then it wouldn't be fueled by left wing, right wing, it would help this turmoil and tension a lot, I think. And it says it's been proven for it, but you know, just good to at least hear that you would be willing to look at it and what are three of your favorite small businesses in D10? And let's say restaurants.
Oh man, three small businesses or three small restaurants
Yeah,
in
yeah.
D10.
Hmm.
Hmm.
No pressure.
That's that is hard because to be honest, like I grew up in District 9
Hmm.
and I've only lived in District 10 for about 2 years.
Okay.
So when I get nostalgic, I think District 9 restaurants.
Okay. Okay.
So that's a hard question for me to be honest.
Okay. Well, give me
Yeah.
some D9 places. We'll do
Okay,
that. It's fine.
so all right. Number one for me, Sushishima is
Okay.
probably like the best Japanese restaurant. It's close right there with Tokyo Inn. I think Tokyo Inn might be District 10. It's right
Maybe.
along there. Or man, I'm getting my locations confused, but
Not by
um,
410. No.
yeah, it's 410 and something. I think 410 and
Oh,
West Avenue. No,
yeah.
no, that's not me. That's not me. Never mind.
I can't remember,
Um,
but it sounds familiar.
but yeah. Sushishima. Little Italy is one of my favorite pizza places. That's really good. It's very hole in the wall. Like you gotta like drive
Yeah.
back into
It's across from
the
the Family Dollar, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, a third one. Let me think for a little bit.
It's cool. You don't have to do that.
Okay, okay.
No worries.
I really wanted to like choose the best, so I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring awareness to these small businesses because the small businesses need them. Like these restaurants need our help.
Oh
So
yeah,
any
definitely.
kind of little shout out to help them, I think it'd be helpful. Um, Ty says, and Ty's very active today, man. You're very active today. How do you feel about vacant seats on boards and commissions? That is a problem.
um,
Oh, sorry.
well, I do feel like I think it's important to fill them as quickly as possible. I'm not sure how often they go, how long they go vacant on average, like how long they stay vacant. Um,
I will tell you
and
on D10 they don't stay vacant for long. D10 is a pretty active uh, filler of boards and commissions because I tried to get on them and I was repeatedly they're like, sorry, we don't have any room. It's mostly the other districts, but
mm,
even then though, the other districts like we could try to encourage more of these districts to try to push harder, right, to get that fill those seats. But I think the problem is too is we're putting the same people in this, and that's what's frustrating a lot of people is they're putting the same people in these boards and commissions. So would you like to see maybe if you were to get in to maybe change it up, like the people that are already in there, or see how it's working?
I mean, I don't see why I would unless, there was a major issue. Because I feel like, a lot of people or a lot of there's um, I don't know if you want to call it a standard, but a lot of politicians will come in and then like put in their people. And I don't think that necessarily needs to be done as long as people are doing their jobs, especially if we're just talking about, these are local boards that help and, build the community. They probably have passion and expertise on, what they've joined to. Um, and so I think that's really important to consider.
And then what are your thoughts on D10's TERS board? And Ty, that's the board that I tried applying to, and I got shut down because there wasn't any vacancies. So, what are your thoughts on the TERS boards?
You're gonna have to tell me what that stands for because I might
It's
not be
the
familiar with
tax
it.
increment reinvestment zone, and
Oh,
basically
okay.
it's the one that's basically on Nacogdoches all the way down. And the TERS board is basically the board that gives out money to the small businesses in that particular area to help them spruce up their facade on the front,
Yeah.
landscape and stuff like that, just to make it look better for our district.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, that's been pretty successful, hasn't it?
Uh,
This I'm not because you could tell I'm like not familiar with this
yeah,
too much.
that
Yeah.
one has they have money in it, but the problem is they're not getting enough people to sign up for it. And if they are, it's a fact of who's getting these these grants. So
Yeah, that does sound like the issue. Okay.
yeah. So Ty says yeah, council people are usually the ones who are either on the boards or assign the boards. That's why like
Right.
I went to go meet Councilman Perry, but D2 had a seat in the TERS board, right? So D2 is part of the D10 TERS that NACO, I forget what it's called,
Perrin.
Nacogdoches corridor or whatever it is,
Oh, okay.
Northeast corridor. But D2 wouldn't call me back after I called the office many times to see if I can get their seat being a D10 resident. But so that's the problem is that we're not having some of the district council offices fill those seats because either lack of communication or things like that. So that's why it's a problem too.
Yeah.
Um, TERS is also responsible for contracting in the Deuce what? Oh, district also.
District. Yeah.
They are responsible for 100. Yeah, it's a lot of money. And I think city council was actually moving um, some of the TERS funding from different TERS in the city to something else. I can't remember. I don't quote me on which ones it is, but I can't remember. They were going to try to move it over to something else, which I don't know. I guess. I don't know. But Tyler says Ray's Pizzeria is one of the best pizza shops. Is that the one off of Blanco?
There used to be one on 604 281, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And again, if anybody wants to jump in and ask a question, please do on Instagram or Facebook. You can actually jump in and actually do that. So, what are some of the things you would like to do to bridge the gap between city council and the actual citizens itself in D10?
I think the important thing is just getting involved with the community. Um, I know a lot of councilmen. I could be wrong about District 10 because like I feel like I try to find these things and the city website is such a mess that I can't find anything.
Yeah.
But I know John Courage like created neighborhood membership groups or something like that. So he could you know um, like create a more um, what do I want to say? Like not a combined community, but like bring his community together and communicate with them.
Like an
Um,
association, like a kind of like the North, what was it, the North Side Asso- Association or something like that?
yeah, I forget what it's called, but I know he made something like that.
Hmm.
And I haven't seen anything like that out of D10. Um, but we could create a group like that in order to um, just communicate with our district. And I think also, typically you can just communicate on social media and things like that. um, I feel like Councilman Perry is like one of our least communicative councilmen out there. um, Generally he only posts updates about you know the meetings and things like that. I think it's important to reach out to the community and um, you know
Yeah.
other updates besides that, basically.
Right.
Uh,
And speaking with that, and I really don't want to bring this up because it's like being a dead horse. It's with the whole CPS energy thing and everything shutting down and power going out. A lot of people didn't get information. A lot of people weren't getting information from the city. And sadly, I've had people reach out to me and say that they got all their information from me. The people that follow me, they were getting information from me and not from the city. And that's not right. There needs to be a constant communication, um, especially when something's going on like that. You know what I mean?
yeah, so like during that time, um, eventually when I did get back on to Twitter and stuff, because I also lost my power. Um, I saw certain council members a lot more active in getting out information compared to others. And I saw basically nothing from Councilman Perry. So, we need someone that's going to be really proactive in helping the community.
Yeah, definitely. Um, And then Ty Grant here has a question. I'm gonna put this question up, but you can respond. I need to go check on my daughter real quick. But
Okay.
do you think that each district should step up emergency response units within the district to assist in times of crisis? I'll be right back. Go ahead and answer that question.
Sure. Yeah, so one of my policy suggestions is to create like a mental health crisis unit. I know currently there is a unit of some kind in SAPD, but it's made up of police officers that do not have mental health backgrounds. They're just trained. So I think it is better to have a crisis unit where you have social workers that are trained for these type of emergencies that can go out and assist people that are having like a mental health emergency. Um, and then that way it'll free up more officers to assist in more more serious or more deadly incidences. And so I think that will really help. It's been proven to work in several major cities already, so I think we could adopt a similar strategy such as the ones found in those cities. I hear you on Instagram, but not on here.
All right, sorry about that. My daughter's still kind of going potty training, so.
You're good.
um, all right. Anyway, so hello everybody, and again, anybody on Instagram or Facebook want to ask a question, please put a comment in the comments. And on Facebook, you can actually jump into the room. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the comment section on Facebook. um, all you have to do is just click on that link, and then you can actually jump in. So property taxes are something that's obviously a big thing everywhere. What would you like to do to help the people in the district? Um, combat that?
So property taxes are something that I've really had the pleasure of experiencing the past couple of years, just buying a house. So now I really personally understand it, which I think is good. Now I can understand why people, are so upset about it. And I think the real issue comes from the appraisal system, because like already twice I've gotten a letter and my house is increasing by nearly $10,000, and it's like, where does this come from?
You built an imaginary pool in your backyard. That's why.
Yeah, and I do understand. I'm living in an area that is continuing to develop, etc. But I think the appraisal process and the appraisal amounts, I've seen a lot of backlash about them from the community in general.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I've had to go and protest it already 2 times, and now I'm expecting a 3rd time.
Yeah.
And when I went there the first time, I was like, I just bought my house. Like, why is it already this high? And they're like, okay, we'll keep it at the amount that you purchased, and it can stay like that for 5 years. So I was like, okay, great. And then what happens the next year? They increase it again. And so I had to go back there and be like, they told me that it was good for 5 years. And they're like, okay, basically they were just like, okay, sorry. And they fixed it again. And so I'm expecting the same problem again. Exactly. And so I think, we know that if that increases by a lot, then your taxes are going to increase by a lot. And so I think we got to look at that process and put some caps on it, some harder caps on it, and start with that, because there are some people that are not going to be able to, lower their amount to what it was originally at. Mm-hmm. The other issue is that I think we need, I don't know for sure, but I think we need to make the protesting an easier process and a more clear process, because I'm not sure how many people go out there and do protest their amounts, and that's what scares me as a homeowner, is that if they're not protesting them, then their taxes are just going to go crazy.
Right.
And so people need to be aware that, hey, not only can you protest, but your protest will very likely be successful in some way, because I feel like maybe also people don't expect their protests to be successful, and that might be also another huge barrier.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just give it a quick thing for everybody. Protest your taxes every single year if you own a home or property, and then reject the first offer that they send you, and then go in for a formal protest. They always send you appraisal after you reject that first one. They say, okay, we'll cut it down to $5,000. Nope, cut it down more, because mine had went up $23,000 in 1 year, and I'm like, come on, guys, I didn't do anything. There's a hole in my siding or something, and it's just stuff like that. So definitely make sure you protest every year. If you don't know how, reach out to me. I'm going to do another class here soon, showing you what it looks like, how to do it, what to expect. Because there's some people that actually hire lawyers for this, just to have to go in there and go do that. But you don't need to. It just takes a little bit of time, especially if you do it online. You can protest your tax. It takes 5 minutes to protest the two different rejections, and then you go in for your formal. So yeah. And then indeed, Marsupio says, is that a cat? In the background, I guess.
Yeah, that's my cat.
And yes, I will be doing a class shortly, because I know I got to do one for my neighborhood association. So it's always something good to know. Ty, we got Ty. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? So, sorry I'm out of the call a little bit, but I wanted to ask, brother, how do you feel about the reallocation of funds right now, with the city moving different funds around to supplement certain programs? How do you feel about them reallocating funds from educational programs that aren't even being announced to the public?
One of my promises as a councilman who's running is not to decrease funding toward education. Obviously, that's something I want to protect. It's something I want to grow. The allocation of funding out of these educational programs is honestly not something I've heard of. So that's something I'll definitely have to look into. And, I could probably provide a better response from there. But obviously, it's concerning if that's happening. But yeah, so the main thing I could say right now is that, my goal is to protect education and grow it.
Okay, and if I may ask, how do you feel about programs being created? And I mean, they're city-based programs that have city funding, and the money's there, so the programs are there and they're active programs, but they're not being given to the people. They're not being provided in a fashion that people could find them easily or any of that thing. So you would have to go and search, and even when you search and find some programs, you have to go through other back doors to get to them. How do you create a system of transparency and also assist us in creating, I guess, more streamlined paths to getting to what it is, or getting people to those points, to getting them to those educational programs or whatever it may be?
I don't know if you have any specific examples of like the programs that are difficult to find or whatever it is, but I can already say, like I've said before early on, like, when I went to the city website, like it was a mess for me, like just trying to find the information that I wanted to find. Like there was broken links, there was things that were sending me back to where I was. It's impossible to navigate. And I think like when I look at like the copywriting stuff, it says like 2011 or something. Like it feels like it has not been updated in a long time. And so it's just like,
for District 10, it was 2016. So you guys are one of the more recent districts that have gone in and updated, but most of the city plans are all behind. Everything's old.
yeah. So I mean, this is where we need to reach out on all possible avenues, like social media, through the news, by mail, reach out to the people who especially want these programs or are going to use them. Again, I'm not sure which programs you are referring to, but there are ways to outreach to people to let them know that these things exist and, hey, here's the way how to do it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ty.
Thank you.
Awesome. And again, anybody on Facebook, if you want to do that as well, just click on the link that's right there down below. You'll be able to jump in as well, and then you can ask directly to Alex. Let me take off this. That's their website to go protest property taxes, bcad.org, if you want to do that. So what is your position on with the Fix SAPD repealing of Chapter 174 and all that, and where do you kind of lie on that issue?
So for me, again, one of my platforms you can see on my website is police accountability. Obviously the popular term is police, defunding the police. That's not a term that I'm using. It has so many different definitions depending on who you talk to and things like that. That's not what I'm asking for, and I don't even think that's what Fix SAPD is asking for. All we want, well, I don't want to lump myself with Fix SAPD, but I'll say all I want is, officers that break the law, that don't follow the rules are held accountable. You had Chief McManus admit that the current laws as they stand don't really make these bad officers be held accountable. And so that needs to change. And so that's what I would be looking forward to coming up on this union talk and this ballot proposal.
Definitely. Um, where are we? Let's see here. What are the things that you think that are not being utilized in the district? That maybe some public entities, buildings, or something that maybe we could use to a um, better way of doing it, or maybe they're not being utilized to their fullest potential.
I'm honestly not sure if there's anything that's not being utilized. I do think there are things that can be improved. We haven't really talked about infrastructure that much. I think, there are major roads in the district that do need improvement, such as Nacogdoches and O'Connor. There's not a lot of bike lanes in the district, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed because I've gone along like Nacogdoches and O'Connor, and there's bikes in the middle of the road, and not that it's illegal or anything, but they shouldn't have to do that. And so I think that's what needs to be addressed primarily in the district when it comes to infrastructure is up, getting up to date with modern standards.
Gotcha. Now, one of the big things here in D10 is the homeless population. What kind of vision do you see? Because I know District One and Trevino they got it really bad, and there's a lot of heated debate down there with them, and so, but I know here, um, we're throwing money at the situation, but we're not getting any results. And what vision do you have to maybe help the homeless population, help the homeless situation? Not combat it, because combat would be what would be a helpful thing that we can do? Because whatever we're doing right now is not working.
Right. So, housing first approaches have proven to be successful. And housing first approach means that, don't worry about drug treatment right away. Don't worry about anything else. Just get them into a home where they can live and move forward from there. Right now, Haven for Hope is, just a shelter. It's just a temporary place. It's not a place that people are going to be guaranteed to move on successfully. They like to guarantee that, oh, they moved 80 to 90% of homeless off the streets. But, as a social worker, I know that if you are in a shelter, you are still homeless. And so it is just hiding the problem that continues to exist. And so I would like to see some changes to Haven for Hope. Right now, they don't accept people if they are high or drunk. I think that's a major issue because that's just pushing away the issue. I think also we can look into, they're not accepting people if they don't have like IDs. I don't know how often homeless people do or do not have their ID, but I don't think it's going to be super often. So I think that's another issue. I think we need to be more accepting at Haven for Hope, and I understand that it is a safety precaution. So at least that's what they claim. But I think there are ways around it that we can make it more safe, I guess you could say, if they're worried about those type of issues occurring from someone being high or drunk.
Right, and I think some of the people from what I have gathered is some of the people that have been there that have actually have had to stay there. They hate it because of they're scared. They're scared of the environment. Everybody's, they don't feel safe. Is what they said. But I mean, yeah, it's something that it needs to be fixed. But also here, yeah, that's in D1, but here, I mean, there's a lot of camps that we have, especially on Wurzbach Parkway, or what that other street is right before O'Connor. But I mean, we're just pushing these people, just moving them over, and we're not fixing the problem.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so anybody want to have any more questions before we wrap up? That was the quickest hour I've seen. But if nobody has any questions, I'll uh, I'll go ahead and let you kind of wrap up and say anything that you want to say that maybe we didn't get to cover. Maybe something more of your platform that we didn't get to cover itself.
I'll just acknowledge Ty's last comments, which he said that it could be a safety issue, which is like, yeah, definitely true. Yeah, I think that's something that can be addressed, whether it's, separating those people or whatever it is. I've been to Haven for Hope a few times, but I don't know it, that well, to be honest, as far as like the building structure, like, oh, this building and that building, whatever it is. I know the general layout, like the courtyard and things like that.
Would
But
you?
as a, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, as a social worker, there's lots of dangerous situations like that. So I think I'm just very accustomed to it, where it's just like, yeah, like those situations happen, but it's for the best. You're trying to make it for the best. And, it's not what people realize it's happening, but, even when people are upset or they're angry that you're trying to help them, in general, they do want to be there and they do want to get help.
Yeah, definitely. Would you go undercover boss and go spend the night like Trevino did? He actually went and stayed there overnight. Like,
I mean, if I did, I don't think I would be afraid or anything.
I think it would maybe give you a little bit more perspective.
Sure, I think a visit would definitely give me more, like you said, perspective on the operations there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. And how can people fall for a week? Oh man, Ty is like Ty wants you to stay there for the week. um, so how can people get a hold of you? How can people help or what? Everything, all that stuff.
So everything for me is Alex4SA with the number 4. So that's my website, that's my Twitter, that's my Instagram. I refuse to use Facebook, so you can't find me on there.
Oh, hold on, let's see. Oh, Trevino stayed for a week. I didn't know he stayed there for a week. I thought he.
Oh, okay.
For like that's some dedication. I might not agree with Trevino on all things, but that's some dedication, right? But yeah. Well, thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for just taking these questions and everything. Wish you the best of luck. And thank you for everybody watching. And again, if anybody does want to sponsor this show, you can. My cash app's down below. We're trying to get something set up to actually do like a studios type of setting. So, yeah, if you want to donate, please do. If you want to donate to Alex's campaign, please do. Or just ask him for any help. I'm sure he'd be willing to answer anything that they have for you. So
we're just accepting time, not money.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's worth it right there. Well, all right, Alex. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody watching, and you have a great